Okay, so when I decided to make the fig jam, I did what anyone would do. I started looking for recipes for fig jam that would work in the jam and jelly maker. And I found there's actually, and I'll try to remember to link to it, there is a group on Facebook that is for the jam and jelly maker. And so people share recipes and that type of thing. And somebody said that they just use the peach jam recipe from the cookbook that comes with the jam and jelly maker. And that's the nice thing about the jam and jelly maker, is that you can use a lot of the recipes as a base recipe and then just switch out the type of fruit that you want. So there's kind of like a basic formula to follow. And so I'm going to be using the same recipe as the peach jam recipe, but I'm just substituting figs. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into making the jam. Before I show you how to make the jam, I thought it would be helpful if I tell you all the ingredients up front. So again, going by the peach jam recipe, but using figs instead, I need 2 2/3 cup of chopped fruit. And I also need 3 tablespoons of powdered pectin. The recipe calls for Ball Real Fruit Classic Pectin. I'm actually using Hoosier Hills. I got it kind of in bulk and it was a little cheaper. Some people said that they haven't had good results with that and swore by the Ball, you know, but it's worked okay for me, but either one should be fine. Okay, the next thing is 2 tablespoons of bottled lemon juice. The next thing is a 1/2 teaspoon of butter or margarine. I'm using butter, and this just helps keep the jam from foaming up. So if you ever forget to put it in, you'll notice because the jam will start foaming. If that happens, go ahead and throw a little bit in, but it's helpful to use it right from the start. And then, and this is what makes everyone groan, it calls for 3 1/3 cup of sugar. Now, the peach jam recipe has an amount for reduced sugar. Most all of the recipes in the book have reduced sugar versions, and I often use them. But people said that with figs are not a clean fruit because of that hole that's at the bottom, and you need to use the full sugar for antibacterial reasons. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but to be on the safe side, I'm using the whole amount of sugar, which is 3 1/3 cups. Okay, now let's go ahead and start the jam making process. Okay, so the first step is to take the powdered pectin, again that's 3 tablespoons, and just sprinkle it more or less evenly on the bottom of the jam maker. The next thing that you want to do is pour the fruit, more or less evenly. And you can see, it seems like every time I do it, some of it kind of blobs over, but it's still pretty even, but I'm just going to go ahead and spread that a little bit. And the 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. And the 1/2 teaspoon of butter. Now you'll notice we're putting everything in but the sugar at this point. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I am going to push the jam button and enter. So I am pushing jam and enter. And you can see that the jam maker is starting to do its thing. When it first starts, there might be some of the pectin at the bottom that's just kind of clumping and you might be kind of worried about it, but don't worry, it'll all end up being incorporated in. Now this process is going to go for about 4 minutes, and at that point it will beep and then I'll add in the sugar. So I'm going to bring you back at that time. Okay, you can see that everything, all that pectin that was just kind of clumping at the bottom has been mixed in well. It hasn't beeped yet, but it should any minute now, and then I will add in the sugar. And by the way, a lot of times I see people put the lid on as soon as they push the first start button, the enter button. But in reading, oh, don't know if you can hear, there's the little beep went. So I'm going to go ahead and pour in the sugar, and I'm going to try to kind of spread it out. and it won't be perfect, but it'll all get mixed in. You just basically want to avoid dumping it all in one area. Okay, so what I was saying was that a lot of times people put on the lid as soon as they start the process, and but I've double checked and triple checked the instructions, and it basically says to put on the lid after you add the sugar. So that's what I'm doing. Okay, so now we have 17 minutes left, and I'm going to bring you back when it's just about done. Okay, so we're down to less than a minute, and I wanted you guys to hear it beep when it finishes, but since we're so close to the end, I'm also going to take the lid off so that you can see inside of it what the jam looks like. Oh, and there you just heard the beeping. And so what that means is that I need to press cancel and then unplug the jam maker. And then I'm going to go ahead and fill the jars. Okay, so when the jam maker stops, you want to be sure to use a pot holder, because trust me, it is very, very hot. And take out the stirrer. And I'm just putting it over onto a paper towel. And I have actually a sink full of hot water that I can put this in as soon as I'm done, because, you know, obviously it's jam, it's going to be sticky and all of that. So anyway, so I'm prepared for that. But let's go ahead and fill up the jars. And remember, I had these jars heated, and they were in the Nesco canner. And what I'm going for is about a 1/4 inch of head space. And so I can already tell that I need to put in a little bit more in this. All right, so I've filled all of the jars. You can see I ended up with 4 1/2 pints and just a little bit more. And I'm not going to bother canning this. I actually am always happy when there's a little bit that doesn't fill up, because in that way I can taste it. And so I'll be doing a taste test once this cools down in a little bit. Okay, so we're down to about a minute left. You can hear that it's making a whole lot of noise. But while we're waiting for it to finish, I thought that I'd go ahead and give you a little bit of a review of this jam. Now that it's had time to cool down a little bit, it's a nice thickness. Probably the jam that has been processed is a little bit thicker. But I'm really glad that I put in the pectin, because some of the recipes that I read left out pectin. And, you know, so anyway, I think that it needed the pectin. It would probably just be a lot thinner. I had heard some people say, you know, they used recipes without pectin and it didn't set. Others say, you know, figs have a lot of pectin. But anyway, I'm glad that I used it. I did do a taste test. I gave my mom a taste, and she was the one really looking forward to the fig jam, and she liked it, although she seems to like pretty much anything I cook. But so she liked it. I tasted it myself. It is definitely sweeter than most of the jam and jelly that I make, because most often I do use the reduced sugar, but as I mentioned, I use the full sugar amount. And just because I want to be on the safe side, I probably will use the full sugar amount each time that I can this specific jam. And, you know, really the bottom line is that, you know, you don't put a whole lot of jam on something, maybe a teaspoon or two on a piece of toast. So anyway, now that it's cooled down a little bit more, I'm going to go ahead and just give it another little taste. I definitely like this, especially if you have a fig tree or a friend or relative that has a fig tree and you can get some figs. I definitely recommend it. I did notice that my local Sprouts has figs for $3.99 for an 8 ounce, for 8 ounces of figs. So basically $8 a pound. So if you don't grow them yourself or don't have someone who grows them, then they might be a little bit pricey. But definitely if you have a fig tree or access to fresh figs, then I definitely recommend it. Oh, this looks so pretty. So there you can see what it looks like. I'm going to maybe go closer to the camera. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you'd like the video. And if you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, especially if you want to learn more about small batch canning. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.